And we're live. Welcome to the RG DFS Tournament Takes podcast. I am your host, Chris Kirkwood, also known as Kikdiese. I'm here with my two boys, JSURab, John Sarabian, and Brett Harfield, KillaB 2482. What's happening, fellas?
Not much, man. Just sweating a little Thursday night football here with the Vikings and Rams. Pretty decent offensive game here so far. So just enjoying that, but kind of sad that a lot of these games, Thursday night, Sunday night, Monday night, seem to be three of the best games to roster players in that we don't get to on the main slate.
That's why you play the Thursday through Monday and just play them all there.
I got a piece of that, but it's just like the action there is just – it's just not there with all the sites, throwing all the guaranteed money in the showdown slates. So
yeah, can I just real quick these showdown slates? I don't understand it. I get that people just want to play on Thursday, play players on Thursday and Monday nights, but just Thursday through Monday, it has so much game theory, and I hate that the sites are just limiting the contests. It really bothers me. But
yeah, what I love about the Thursday through Monday is it really gives you an edge for swaps, especially in tournaments. The only issue is, right, some of these tournaments, it's just not a lot of money up top. So you can't invest a bunch of money to make these swaps. But man, I always look forward to Monday Night Football, putting a guy in the flex, having multiple guys that you could put in the flex, just possibly maneuver up the leaderboards, but can't do that too much anymore.
You can't have it all. You got NBA late swap back, so
it's true.
Sure you'll be happy with that. All right, so we're back for another week. I'm a little poorer, I'm not going to lie. Wasn't the best of weeks. I know JSU is still riding high from his huge win a couple of weeks ago, but how'd you do this week?
So not as good this week. Can't expect to do good every week, but definitely had a rough week this past week. Didn't play as much Calvin Ridley as I probably should have. Was definitely underweight to the field on that. Did play Tyler Boyd, but just wish I had them both. Didn't do it. So, on to the next one. So yeah, I mean, I lost a little bit. I was down, but not a big deal. Hopefully this week, make it back.
Looks like Cooks just went in for a touchdown too.
Yeah, Goff just threw another 50-yarder.
I'll get into my Calvin Ridley rant in a minute. But KillaB, how'd you do?
Also a losing week for me.
Losers.
Yeah. So, this week I just was not – you ever have those weeks where you don't know how your lineups are looking, and then comes Saturday, Sunday when value gets out there, I wasn't confident in the running backs that I was going with. So probably had maybe too large of a player pool. And I always feel like anytime that I kind of expand my player pool and I don't take sides too much, I do too much of the D by 10% of everybody. I just felt like I punted that week away. Too much Kareem Hunt shares, Tevin Coleman, instead of, kind of gambling, or not gambling, but instead of going up to like the Camaras and the Gurleys, and then going with the cheaper wide receivers, that seemed like the spot to hit up this week, the past week. So looking to get back at it for week 4 here.
This weekend came down to one decision for me, and for cash at least. And I was struggling with Gio versus Murray, Latavius, and I didn't feel good about either of them. And when all was said and done, I ended up with Murray in my lineup like a fish on DraftKings with PPR format. And, man, I felt dumb. But that was literally the decision that made or break you. So, yeah, that wasn't good for me. I'm going to give my rant on Calvin Ridley. So I liked Calvin Ridley a lot. I think we discussed him on the show. I spent all week digging up like stuff like quotes from Sarkisian about how they're designing gimmick plays for him about how he's such an excellent route runner. You know, he was the first round draft pick last year. We had, you know, the signs were there with his touchdown the week before, and little bit of increased usage, but the sky was the limit for this kid, and he had the best matchup. And I ended up talking to my friends that I talk DFS with a lot, who most of them are cash players. So that's the problem, right? And I'm like saying that Ridley is the best GPP play, number one. I'm going to probably use him in cash. And they were like, you can't, how many targets are you going to get? How many targets? How many snaps did he play? Yeah, and before you know it, then he was in my main GPP line, and then by Sunday morning, I ended up taking him out, and my best line of the week scored like 225 or something, and that was my original main GPP line that I ended up just leaving in like the smaller stuff. And so I was upset about that. So I got
to give your friends a little bit of credit. I mean, he was still running wide receiver 3. He had 42 of 68 snaps. He was out there, I want to say, on like 30 of like 41 dropbacks. So that's like the key stat that I really look at. But I mean, for him to be, to get as much work as he did, deep plays, let's see, how many red zone targets did he have? He had 2 red zone targets, which both he converted into touchdowns. And Julio, everybody's been talking like, he hasn't scored a touchdown in 8 straight games. So, it's one of those situations where I try not to be too results oriented. I was also on Tyler Boyd a little bit more, so felt pretty good.
I had plenty of Boyd. I had Boyd and Cat, plenty of Boyd. But like Ridley was the decision where champions get made in DFS, and I felt like I was there. I literally, he was the one player I put all my time in, like getting all these like reading all these like Atlanta Journal-Constitution articles and like all these home articles, and
so you sold off him in cash. Did you?
Yeah.
Also
so and then I ended up pulling him from my main GPP line, and all I had was in like the small tournaments. So like my best GPP line was my original main GPP line that I ended up getting convinced that this wasn't the play anymore, and like I was so mad, and I was berating my friends, being like, "No, this is the type of play that where champions are made." And this is a forward-thinking league. You've got to outsmart the competition. Like, this was the play, and whatever.
So now he's gonna probably be chalk. You gonna go right back to him?
No, but it's like it's done now. You know what I mean? Like, you got to find these diamonds before. I mean, sure, he might still be a great play, and like I definitely like Tyler Boyd again. We can get into that too. But like finding these guys are like on these weeks are the keys for GPP success, at least.
Yep. I try and create most of my tournament lineups like on Friday or Saturday when I feel pretty good about who's going to be in and out, and then these are more or less my one-offs, and I try and like leave them alone as much as possible. But I mean, I will obviously monkey around with my cash game all the way up until lock. Even my main, what I call my main leagues lineup, I will monkey around. So I get it. Like, I'm still making like those last second. And I always am writing down like my 2v2s or my 3 versus 3s and just hoping that I bounce right with those results.
I monkey around all throughout the day on Sunday with my lineup until 12:59.
Yeah, it's tough not to.
It's so hard not to. There's like 1 week every year where it's like 12 o'clock and I'm like, I think I'm done. And then I just stop. But that's like 1 week, that only happens like once. So for me, I'm always tinkering up till lock.
Yeah, I try and quit like at a certain time and then just look for overlays and stuff and just get ready to fire more bullets into tourneys. So.
Yeah, what could have been? My main line was Breeze, Kamara, Clement, Michael Thomas, Julio, Ridley. It was just a full game stack with Ebron and Boyd, Chalk, and the Cowboys. And then it was no longer my main line. Anyways,
forward-thinking show.
Forward-thinking show.
Yep.
Forward-thinking DFS. You have to move on to next week. You gotta take your punches and roll with them. And we're gonna get it all back this week. And if we don't, we're gonna go all in the next week and get it back one of these weeks. Right? That's how we roll here. So, all right. So, game stacks. Right? That's
Right.
that everybody's talking about it. That's what's winning everything. Millie Maker. It's all about picking the right game and just loading up and watching it go off. Now that's been great because we've had some interesting situations with concentrating passing attacks in like the nut matchup games in domes. This week's a little different. We don't quite have it. Some of the highest total games aren't on the main slate, as you mentioned earlier, and we do have a couple of outlier games. We've got a 51-point total with the Bengals and the Falcons, and then a 50-point total with the Saints Giants, and then it falls down a little bit with the Dolphins Pats 48, Texans Colts 47, and then some Bucks Bears 47, and some kind of disgusting games from there. Maybe it's not a game stacking week. What are your guys' thoughts? How are you approaching this week going forward? Where are your heads at right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that even though those totals kind of scream like, maybe it's not a good idea to game stack, I think that's why you game stack. We know that this works. We see this work every week. It's a different game stack every week that kind of hits most of the time. So for me, that just means that maybe people won't game stack as much, which that means I want to kind of game stack more of my lineups. I don't know about you guys. But.
Well, the thought is I think that everybody's going to be game stacking from now on going forward because it's the new hot topic. You game stack because it gives you the highest upside in a lineup when the game goes off, and that's not going away, right? Like if one of these games pops off, you're going to want to do that. But it's also been the people aren't just doing it enough, and I think that we're going to see that change each week going forward.
So Kurt, when you say game stack, why don't you explain that maybe a little bit more?
Yeah.
Are you talking about like rostering 4 or 5 guys? Is that
yeah.
Yeah, because that's what I'm talking about, like 5 guys stacks.
4 guys at a minimum.
4 or 5 guys, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like the norm is like, okay, everyone pairs the QB with the wide receiver one, or at least one person. Like that was like the old school norm. And then, running it back was another one. So you get into the 3-man, or now you put a 3-man on the offensive side and run it back with one for a 4-man. And then you can get it even to the 5 or the 6-man have upside now. So that's kind of what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so I would say like if you're able to do that in certain games, I think like the Giants and Saints, you're not able to probably do a official game stack. It's just the guys in that game, Saints and Giants. You got too many 9K guys, the Odell, Michael Thomas, and Kamara. So it's gonna be tough to do that. Even though even Saquon Barkley 8,100 on DraftKings. So I mean, that game is just with the prices being so high, you're not going to be able to throw in too many studs. But I think we can see that the Cincinnati at Atlanta game being in a dome, another injury to an Atlanta defensive back. I can see why Vegas has moved this line up by 5 points. So I think this will be the safest and most popular game stack. So a lot of these guys are going to be chalky. You have two of the guys that we were just talking about that were 3,700 last week in Tyler Boyd and Calvin Ridley, now moved up to 46 and 49. I would still say they're probably too cheap and will still be very popular for what they did last week.
Yeah, I agree with that. I like this game. I mean, we all want Mixon to be out, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, and I think he's not expected to play. I don't think he's been officially ruled out.
Yeah, they're kind of saying that there's possible that he could play this weekend, but I don't think it's likely. I mean, we want him out. We want Gio. This has been the one matchup that we can count on is running back pass against the Falcons. We loved McCaffrey. It was my favorite play that week. We loved Kamara last week. And now we get Gio, who's a pass-catching back, who is the back as long as Mixon is out, who's getting all of the carries and passes. So he's getting all the usage in general. So he's just a smash again at 6,300. His price barely went up. It just went up 400 So we get this incredible matchup, game in a dome, high total again. So that's just like an obvious cash play and someone I want in GPPs as well.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to avoid that. Like I'm very comfortable with avoiding chalk when it comes to wide receivers. But in running backs, I always have trouble swerving away from the chalk if I can expect a huge workload. And, you've already explained how susceptible Atlanta is to pass catching running backs. And that's exactly what we want out of Gio coming from behind. What do you think, John?
Yeah, I mean, I like Gio. I like Tevin Coleman. I think they're both great plays. I think it's an awesome idea to put them together in a lineup. Both these teams, the Bengals and the Falcons, they both are susceptible to pass-catching running backs. So from that standpoint, it seems like a perfect, matchup for both of them. It's kind of a perfect pairing. So I really like that a lot just in this game.
Yep, and Vontaze Burfict is this will be his last game. I think he's got a 4-game suspension for PEDs. So this, without him being in the middle, I think that kind of exposes Cincinnati defense quite a bit too.
Yeah, definitely. They're going to get a little bit healthier with Preston Brown back, but yeah, Burfict is the guy that makes a huge impact there. So yeah, there's a lot of good plays again, right? Like, so we got to consider Matt Ryan with the way that he's been playing. Also, the Bengals have been tagged for 300-plus yards in 2 of 3 games, allowing multiple passing touchdowns. Ryan's a guy that likes to spread it around, as we know, because he's not honing in on Julio like maybe we thought last week. But so he's definitely in play. His price did get a little bit of a boost here, right?
Yeah, he's 6,100 on DraftKings, I think.
Yeah, still more than reasonable though, right? So, are you guys considering him in cash or both or?
I'm leaning more towards tournaments for Matt Ryan right now. I have a few other guys I'd put a little bit higher in cash games, like Deshaun Watson at 6,300. I think just has a higher floor due to his running. Yeah, but I guess main slate, because I just got done making my Thursday through Mondays, and I had a lot of Roethlisberger. So obviously Roethlisberger's not in main slate. So potentially I will have some exposure to Matt Ryan and Drew Brees in cash.
Yeah, I think Matt Ryan's fine on both GPPs and cash. I don't think you can go wrong with him there. But real quick, let's get to Julio, because I think this is going to be a spot where people just say I'm out this week, and that's the perfect spot to kind of get in on Julio. He kind of salvaged his day. They did move Lattimore in the second half over to kind of face Calvin Ridley, so Julio got some more looks and kind of salvaged his day a little bit, but didn't really have a big game. Obviously didn't get his touchdown, but I still like him in this matchup a little bit. He's 8,200 on DraftKings. It's still a little, too cheap in my opinion. This is a guy who has huge upside, and I think it's too early to kind of just throw in the towel on Julio. I think it's a bad idea. I'm going to go in GPPs. I'm going to go in with some Julio lineups, probably stacking him with both Matt Ryan and Calvin Ridley, and Julio with Tevin Coleman and Matt Ryan, just kind of getting different. But definitely like him a lot, and he will be in my stacks.
Yeah, and Julio's line could have been a lot better. That last pass, I want to say in the fourth quarter, if Matt Ryan would have led him a lot better. I mean, he had the corner and the safety beat for a touchdown pretty easily there. So
it also could have been a lot worse if he never even got that one pat. They didn't move Lattimore onto Ridley, which allowed him to be open on this one. Then this may have, that wouldn't even have happened. So,
yeah.
Okay, here's the thing. I've been doing this with Julio for 2 freaking years, okay? I always find a reason to play Julio. I always this is the time to get back in on Julio. But meanwhile, I had him last week and the week before that. You know what I mean? Like, I have him when he's chalk. I have him when he's not chalk. And I constantly keep going back. When is enough enough?
I feel like you're like a therapist here.
Yeah.
So I'm all about Julio myself. Like I think out of all the stud wide receivers I've had, he would probably be my highest owned guy. So I'm right there with you with the frustration of just him not getting touchdowns and whatnot. So I feel like at his price at 8,200, he will still garner decent ownership, just mainly because that game is the highest owned too. I don't know. I'm thinking somewhere between 10 and 15%. If you think that might be too high, I don't know. But we do have that bias, right? And everybody's been talking about it across the industry about his touchdowns. Seen it tweeted multiple times now. So I think Calvin Ridley is going to be easily the highest, like probably 2x higher than Julio. So I'm good with swerving to Julio and finding value in a different spot than Ridley.
Yeah, and Tyler Boyd, let's just touch on. I mean, I see no reason not to play this guy again. He's clearly the safety blanket. AJ Green's injury looks like he's going to play. We don't know how concerning it is. I don't really care either way. He's still getting targets. He was highly touted a couple years ago, and then we kind of like all forgot about him. But he's back, and he's for real, and he's the clear wide receiver 2 on this offense. So I'm going to continue playing him at this cheap price.
Yeah, and AJ Green, he will be playing, and I didn't know how I was going to react if AJ Green was out, but I'm glad I don't have to make that decision. I actually think it's a good thing that AJ Green's playing. Anytime that there's going to be a safety, you'd think like the safety is going to be more on the AJ Green side of things than Tyler Boyd. So I'm going right back to Tyler Boyd. We'll have plenty of exposure in cash games, and then even sprinkling them in tournaments.
One thing that I think if you want to be a little different in tournaments, and I've been playing around with lineups and trying to figure out kind of, building lineups, what is going to be different. And I think one thing that people are going to see this week is I think paying up for 2 stud wide receivers is going to be like a contrarian build. And I'm not saying like Michael Thomas will be, low owned. He's going to be higher owned. You know what I mean? Like these guys are going to be owned, but I just mean having 2 of them in your lineup in your build, I think is going to, make you different from the field. Because I think most people want to pay up at running back. They want to have, cheap tight ends or cheaper tight ends. And I think that's going to cause them to kind of be able to pay up for running back and get that mid-tier receiver, which I think we all can say there's a lot of value at the mid-tier. That's like pretty good value, at least in my eyes. And I'm sure you guys have some value there too. So that just tells me right off the bat that guys like AJ Green, Julio, Odell Beckham, these guys are going to be lower owned than they should be. And having 2 of them in your lineup is going to differentiate you across the board, I think.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people also just look at what happened the week before, right? It was 2 3,700 wide receivers that went off last week. So that's in everybody's minds. So I think if that's what won it last week, it's very easy to do that same type of build for the next week right after.
And we didn't touch on the fact that Alvin Kamara is going to be super chalk at what, 35, 40%, like in tournaments.
No decision for the Todd Gurley or Kamara this week on the main slate. So that means if you go up, you're going to probably be spending on Kamara. I personally like a lot of different mid-tier running backs this week. So and mainly just for tournaments. So I'll just throw out, I think Leonard Fournette at home versus the Jets, pairing Fournette with the Jacksonville defense. Make sure Fournette's obviously full go. Looks like he will be back. But Tevin Coleman, I know you brought him up before. He dropped by 400 on DK. He was at either 63 or 64 last week, and now he's at 5,900. We saw what Christian McCaffrey did to the Cincinnati defense last week. So just seems like a great spot in a fast-paced game where I don't think Tevin will have a lot of ownership either.
Like it.
Back to this, or staying on this game, a play I kind of like is Tyler Eifert. And I was happy to hear that Evan Silva was kind of on him last night when he was on our RG show. He's getting an uptick in usage. And the Falcons, basically, if you look at it, the Falcons allowed Ben Watson to 5 catches for 71 yards. Like, if you want to compare athleticism between Eifert and Watson, as long as Eifert is getting, healthier and they're showing they're going to let this guy rip at some point. And I feel like this could be the game for him. So he's dirt cheap. He's projected to only be 5% ownership from Jamino right now. I mean, he's not dirt. He's 3.8K, but I think he's going to be totally overlooked and someone that I think could be, this guy does, if he gets some looks in the end zone, like he could go completely off.
Yeah. I really truly think there's both tight ends are in play, both running backs. You have like 4 wide receivers in play. I think you can stack this up every which way. Austin Hooper, to me, is very viable. He stayed at 2,900. He's still getting 85% of the snaps, getting decent targets, at least 4 targets in every game. So I like that as a punt also.
Yeah, I mean, I get the Eifert play. I'm probably just not going to do it. I need to see a little more. I like, a few other guys on the Bengals team that we already talked about. I think, like, for me, if I'm spending down, it would be a guy like Eric Ebron, who I know people, probably super frustrated with.
He's the chalk again.
We talked before the show. I don't know if he's going to be super chalky because I think some people are going to come off of him. But even if he is, he dropped 2 touchdowns. He had 10 or 11 targets. The guy had the opportunity. I think Andrew Luck's more comfortable playing at home. I think it's just a better spot for him. And I like a guy like George Kittle at 3,900, playing with CJ Beathard. I'm pretty sure they went to college together, or at the same college, at least Iowa. And I just think that those two have a rapport. You saw Beathard got right into the game and threw Kittle a touchdown that, they threw a penalty flag on, but he still looked right to him right away in the red zone. So I do like that. I think there's, he's more comfortable throwing to him. And I think he'll look to him, in the red zone and in tough situations.
All right. Yeah, I mean, he certainly had the opportunity. He dropped, I remember 2 TD passes that went through his hands in the end zone. And the opportunity should be there. So there's conflicting information about whether Doyle is going to make it back. It may actually even help him if Doyle makes it back in this game. It might alleviate, some things and get him open. Yeah, I can see that for sure. He's projected, at least Jamino has him projected to be the highest owned tight end, tied with Gronk, but this is early ownership. This is, things are going to change. So this is just kind of a rough draft for sure. All right. So what's your favorite game, John? Is your favorite game the Falcons?
I think the Falcons game is definitely everyone's favorite game. I think my favorite sneaky game, because I think, I love that Falcons game, obviously, but I think a sneaky game that no one's going to really touch, and it's for 2 reasons, is that San Francisco Chargers game. And I just think that people see blowout written all over this game, and they like to stay with running backs and defense usually when it says blowout. And I don't know. I like some pass catchers in this game. I mean, Mike Williams.
I love Mike Williams. I've been late to the Mike Williams party, but I'm on board now.
Yep, he's really good. He's definitely their second option, through the air at going downfield. I know Melvin is a part of that passing game, and he gets a lot of check down looks and everything. But down the field, I think it's Keenan Allen and then Mike Williams. I know Keenan Allen just popped on the injury report. It's just something to note that he didn't practice today. So obviously if he's out, this makes it an even better play. But I still like, Keenan Allen. I like Mike Williams. I love Melvin Gordon. I really love Melvin Gordon. And then I like the other side. I like Matt Breida. I like George Kittle that we already talked about. I think there are ways in which you can stack this game up and, it be higher scoring game.
Yeah. Mike Williams for sure. Killer B, you got a take on this?
Yeah, it's going to be definitely super low on. Without Joey Bosa in the San Diego Chargers defense, they're not as good pressuring the quarterback, right? It's just how much belief do you have in CJ Beathard, whatever his name is. I think the safe.
It's not Beathard.
Beathard. I think the safe play is going Kittle. I'm not going to be there on the Matt Breida unless Alfred Morris is ruled out. Breida has looked great catching the ball out of the backfield, and they should be playing from behind here. So I don't mind it. But yeah, it's not a spot that I'm looking to go.
Can I just get you on? Can I just say one thing about Breida just to see if I can persuade you a little bit? Because I think that with Breida, I think you got to look at all like the game script, how the game's going to go, how you think it's going to go. Everyone thinks it's going to be a blowout. If you think the Chargers are going to get up early and stay up, I think Matt Breida spends more time out on the field than usual. I think he gets a higher snap count if they're down and they need a pass catcher on the field. I think he's the guy. I think CJ's going to look to him more because he loves to dink and dunk. He did it last year with Carlos Hyde. Mm-hmm. He's going to do it again with whoever's at running back, whether it be Alf or Matt Breida. And I think the coaching staff knows that, and I think they're going to kind of play to his strengths. So I think they're going to need Matt Breida out on the field more than Morris, especially if they get down early.
All right. Morris is dinged up, right? Maybe more of an issue than we think it is at this point. I think Breida's more athletic, right? It definitely has the more upside. Beathard has targeted running backs in over 30% of his career pass attempts.
That's crazy.
The game script. So if I can get behind Breida for sure. So I'm with you. And I worry, though, about the game in general, like just being kind of, not really, just this offense struggling in general. I think the opportunity will be there. He's my favorite play, definitely, on the 49ers side. I also like Melvin Gordon a lot. And those would be the two guys and then Mike Williams. So those would be the three that I would kind of like the best from this game.
Honestly, besides Melvin Gordon, I don't think anyone else is going to be really that owned at all. So if you take any one of these guys outside of Melvin Gordon, I think you're going to be different.
Yeah, I totally agree. The ownership play on San Fran, you're going to get for sub 5% almost across the board there. Yeah. So if it does come to fruition, it's the perfect play. So, and it's something that I can see. I mean, the Chargers defense without Bosa has not been pressuring the quarterback. Should allow San Fran to, have plenty of passes where, they're pretty freed up. And the Chargers play a lot of zone D. So it's not like you have to worry about certain wide receivers being, covered by, some of the stud corners there. So I don't mind it. There's one spot that I do want to hear what you guys have to say, and it's the Patriots. The Patriots are implied to score for 27.5 points.
You don't want to hear what I have to say on this.
Yeah,
yes, I do. I want to hear it.
So we know Burkhead's on the IR now, and you got Sony Michel that looks to be the guy at 4,500. I don't know how chalky he's going to be, but we do know how the Dolphins have given up a lot to the middle of the field in the tight end spot. So I think Gronk's like the perfect tournament play to actually spend up at Gronk. I know Gronk has a questionable tag by him, so just keep an eye on his practice. He was limited today, so
he's fine. He's fine.
But yeah, with that Xavier, forget his last name, Xavier Henry.
Howard? Yeah, he's legit.
Yeah, I'm assuming. I don't know exactly how many snaps Josh Gordon will get this week, but I feel like Hogan would be shut down by him. So I'm looking to only two guys here, and they got 27.5 implied, and everybody's selling off on New England. I think Sony Michel and Gronk are great plays. Let's hear what Kirk has to say on this one.
So I've expected this team to struggle, right? Like it's made all the sense. So Brady's obviously not getting any younger. I mean, he looks mobile as ever, doesn't he?
Anytime he has to move, he really looks his age.
Oh, it's disgusting. But and then we've got a bunch of white receivers. No.
And Philip Dorsett.
Yeah, Philip Dorsett. So, I've expected this team to struggle because we haven't had much, right? So Chris Hogan is obviously not doing anything, hasn't been doing anything at all. Gronk is the focal point. Every team is just game planning him out as best that they can. And we thought this guy is matchup proof and game plan proof. But I mean, when they throw their entire defense at him, they just can't do anything. So we need this. It comes down to Josh Gordon, right? It literally comes down to Josh Gordon. I like the idea of Sony Michel. I played him the other night, and I liked his usage. He looked terrible. There's everybody's ragging on them about the game plan and how, they should have never used him in the first place. They should try to open up the passing. I do like him from the touchdown equity standpoint. He's going to be their goal line guy, right? It's only him or James White now. So James White is going to be the passing back, and he's going to be the normal running back. And so the obviously they can, if the offense is moving and that anything can happen, it can be down on the 3-yard line. He's going to get opportunities to punch this ball in. How dynamic he is, I don't know at this point. Their offensive line is struggling. I don't know. I need Josh Gordon to be back, and I need him to really open up this offense for him, and so that they can't just key in on Gronk, and then that opens up the running game too as well. So I don't know what to think.
Right. The lack of talent at the offensive spots here are pretty eye-opening. It's one of those things where you're just okay, what's this team going to look like next week when I would assume that they have everybody back in rotation, It should be interesting to see how many snaps Gordon gets. But
it's you have one-on-one. Gronk gets doubled, 75% of the game? You have one-on-ones on the outside, and you need those guys to win those matchups. I mean, that's just what it comes down to. If guys can't win those matchups, then – they're not going to win, and their teams will just keep doubling Gronk. So that's the fear when you roster Gronk right now is our team's just going to take him away and just double him and say someone else on the outside beat me. And You already talked about they have that kid Howard, who's obviously a beast. And, you don't want – if he's going to shadow Gordon or Hogan or whoever it is, if Gordon doesn't play – you obviously don't really want to pick on him. So you'd love Gronk or Michelle. But, if Gordon plays, then I think, he gets that kind of treatment. And I think Hogan, it frees him up a little bit more, and it will free up Gronk. And so those guys are really good plays. I think, especially if Gordon plays, I think it's just such an easier play. But I'm still going to go there either way because I think people are just so off the Patriots train right now. I think I'm going to play Brady in some lineups. Just these guys are going to come in at way lower ownership than we're used to getting them at.
I'm not so low on them. I do think they're going to get better. I know Belichick's going to make the adjustments. I know this team's going to get healthier. I know they're going to put it together, and they're going to be fine. I don't know how they're going to do this week, and I'm worried about it. I'm worried about the game in general, but it is stackable. It's got a 48-point total. I do like the way that the Dolphins' offense is looking. They've got a bunch of quick guys. I think Kenny Stills is still a solid play. And, the Patriots' D has looked like Swiss cheese so far. So, I can see it. I just like another game better, and we'll touch on that quickly because we're going over like we always do. But I'm going to go on to first we got to talk about Sterling Shepard, right? Great play this week. Obviously, he's going to be chalk, but, he's going to be great chalk, right?
Yeah, so New Orleans cornerback Patrick Robinson got put on the IR this week. So that means I'm going to see. It is I don't have his name. Go ahead.
So basically, Saints, they lost, like you said, slot cornerback Patrick Robinson. So
PJ Williams will be on him in the slot.
Or Ken Crawley. Which is bad news. So they've allowed 3 touchdowns to Calvin Ridley we just saw. Shepard gets the boost anyway because Ingram is out, so he should get an uptick in targets. He's seen 7 targets in 2 of their 3 games. So there's just a lot to like here. We know he has some rapport with Eli. Eli did get the ball out a lot quicker last week. They, designed a much – because their offensive line has problems, they've designed that to get it out quicker. So Sterling Shepard should be getting a bunch of targets in this game. So I see a lot to like. I like him in cash and GPP. Are you guys feeling the same?
Yeah, I'm totally with it. I love Sterling Shepard a lot today. His price is super reasonable this week, $4,900, like you said. I don't see a way where they don't try and pick on PJ Williams or Ken Crowley, whoever has those matchups they're going to go at, and Shepard's going to have one of those guys on him pretty much the whole game, because we would assume that Lattimore is going to be on Odell shadowing for pretty much the whole game. So that's going to free up Shepard and whoever else they're guarding. So I really like him a lot.
Yeah, I would assume he's going to be really chalky. Like we said, that a lot of the cheap wide receivers went off last week, and I think a lot of people are going to be looking at the right around the 5K mark for a lot of exposure to the wide receivers. And Shepard makes a lot of sense. I don't think I'm really ecstatic about Eli this week, but man, it's tough not to like the running backs in this game. I mean, the only Saquon's price, he's $8,100 on DK and $8,000 on FanDuel, so he's priced up there, and he's been phenomenal. I mean, he's been utilized in both the pass and obviously the run game, and it seems like he's just a big play waiting to happen. The Giants' offensive line has been terrible. That's the only issue, but you get this kid out on space, and he's the perfect play, right? I mean, he can take it to the house.
I mean, the Saints' pass defense has just been atrocious, and like we mentioned with the loss there to Patrick Robinson, it should be even worse. So, yeah, the opportunity is going to be there, even for a guy with a noodle arm like Eli. And
one thing, my bad, I just want to say with Saquon, because I know we were just about to get off, is that don't forget Eli's going to be looking probably not towards Beckham as much as he would in normal games. So I think that just gives Saquon a much higher floor with receptions. I think he's going to target him a lot in the pass game.
Yeah, he should pick up some of those receptions. I mean, he gets a ton anyway. He should pick up a boost with Ingram out. I mean, I like ODB. Beckham Jr. is fine. I think he's good. I kind of think Cam Meredith is sneaky for a kind of a low-owned GPP play. And obviously Michael Thomas is the man and Kamara is the man. So I think there's plenty of goodness here. But we're going to go on to one more game quickly to close it out. A game I'm looking at, and I want your opinion on, fellas, because I'm kind of interested in this Texans-Colts game. I know I'm already hearing like this could be more of a defensive battle than we're expecting. The Colts D is better than we expect. To me, I agree with all that. I also think that this is a dome game. I think that there's big playmakers on the Texans side. They should air it out. This is still an inexperienced secondary. And I do worry about Andrew Luck's arm. But if there was a defense where he should be able to dink and dunk against all game, it's probably this Texans. So I think the passing game is going to be utilized from both sides, and basically non-existent running games for each side. So I just think that this game could really pop off here. What are you guys thinking?
Yeah, I think this game is kind of a sneakier shootout for sure. I don't know how much ownership will be on the Indianapolis side of things. So I think that is probably where I'd want to invest my tournament dollars. Try to get exposure to a T.Y. Hilton. I mean, everybody's just been talking about Andrew Luck not being in on the Hail Mary play, which makes you think, okay, well, if he can't do that, can he throw a bomb to T.Y.? And that's usually how T.Y. is, crushed is the deep pass. Not really – he's not like the Odell Beckham taking slants to the house. He's always gotten behind the safeties. So that's the only scary part in a tournament. But I think even like a Ryan Grant is in play. Ben the wide receiver too hasn't gotten a lot of targets yet. He's had 9 week 1, 2 week 2, and 5 week 3. But just a guy as a wide receiver too that I expect to see plenty of targets in what could be a shootout game. And then I think Ebron still becomes the chalk this week for Indy. So, but I think a lot of people will be on the Houston side of things. We saw how strong Fuller's been with Deshaun Watson as the quarterback. So I think a lot of people are going to go right back to it. I don't know. It's one of those things where if I know Will Fuller's going to be chalky, it's going to be tough for me to own it. At 6,800, I still feel like he's at that price point where he's going to be pretty chalky.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he'll be the chalk. I think Watson will have ownership too, but Will Fuller will definitely be chalky. But you're talking about a stack where where most of the targets are going to. It's kind of like that Pittsburgh stack, with Antonio Brown and Juju. Same thing here with Hopkins and Fuller. Fuller had 11 targets last week and Hopkins had 10. And that's pretty much the case. Fuller had 9 week 2, Hopkins had 11. So it's just these are the guys that Watson's looking for every single time pretty much. So when you're stacking, it's just pretty easy to just throw those 2 guys in. And then if you do that, you got to bring it back, and you got to bring it back with someone like Ty, someone with upside. I know Luck's arm, and people are saying he can't throw the ball downfield, but another guy, he's getting 11, and 10 targets the past 3 weeks.
Yeah, so Ebron too with the target share is ridiculous too.
Right.
Yeah.
So we know where the catches are going. So it's like
it's a concentrated offense. I love that. Yep. I'm gonna probably at this point I'm like gung ho on Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins in cash and GPP. We'll see where I end up, but those are the guys I like. I still like Will Fuller. I think Will Fuller is not going away. I get it, the touchdown regression, but he's got a clear connection with Watson. He's an athletic beast. As long as he's healthy, the big plays are there in a dome. They don't have Colts don't have any cornerbacks with speed that should be able to keep up with him. So he has just as good a chance to break off a big one in this game as he's had in any other game. And I like them both, to be honest with you. But I love that. The tight end I may end up fading, but we'll see. I might have some interest in Ryan Griffin potentially. But I'm on board with TY also. I know, and we're not expecting the huge deep ball, especially when they pulled Luck for the Hail Mary. That was really sad to see. That was a clear indication that he just doesn't have the arm strength anymore. But TY, even though he's played in the slot for the majority of his career, he's on the perimeter now, but he should be able to get a bunch of targets and move against this secondary of the Texans here. So this is a game that is ripe for me, and that's where I'm going to be, at least at this point. So join me if you'd like.
I know we're about to wrap up the show, so I just want to throw this out there too. The quarterback spot this week is so tightly packed in. You can go all the way down to obviously 4,500 with Josh Rosen, which I don't think many people will, but the cheapest outside of that is Derek Carr at 5,100, and then you go all the way up to Aaron Rodgers. I think is like 60. It's like 66, or 68. So 1,700 difference between min max. It's just so much tighter this year. A guy that I would be willing to go cheap though this week, just to kind of gamble, is Baker Mayfield. I think one of his wide receivers will be somewhat chalky in that under 5K range of Antonio Callaway. So, I do like the upside of Callaway. That guy has unbelievable speed. And I think Baker Mayfield's obviously efficiency is going to be so much better than what we've seen. I feel like that's
I like one play. I like Njoku a lot.
Yeah, yep. And Njoku too, for sure. Still getting all the snaps. I think they hooked up.
That's the play this week, boys.
They hooked up for 2 catches in the second half, so I think only 2 targets though. But Yeah, I do expect Njoku to be starting getting more involved in this game.
So we're in a lot of trouble. This is our longest show by far. This is what we do. We're sorry. Hopefully there's some people who actually made it through to the end. Todd Gurley's a beast. He just ripped a long catch here. This Cooper Kupp has already broken the slate for the Thursday through Monday. And yeah, any final words?
No, but we went 0 for 3 last week, so let's come back next week and be 3-0.
3-0. Yep. Let's do it.
Let's get
All right, yeah, it's on. It's done deal. It's a wrap. Okay, thanks for joining us. We are the RG NFL DFS Tournament Takes podcast, and we will catch you next week. Thanks a lot.
Man, you say that fast.